Hello, welcome to the audiobook of my Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds fanfic, Crimson Star Priestess. If you are enjoying this series, make sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe to my channel for updates. The link to the fanfic and my Discord server are in the description below. I do not own any Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds characters, I only own my original characters. My colleagues were barely talking about the virus invasion that occurred 3 days ago. The majority had moved on and concentrated on their work, assuming everything was calm because the hackers hadn't stolen any confidential files. I, however, was constantly on the edge. The Mech-Lord Emperors and the 3 Pure Nobles could make their first appearance any time now. My friends at Goodwin noticed my change of behavior for the last few days. I was more silent than usual, looking nervous, and could barely eat. I rubbed my tired eyes as I was working at Sector Security with the latest documents, also related to the World Racing Grand Prix. I haven't been able to sleep well, so I had a hard time concentrating on the bright screen. Goodwin thought I was coming down with something and wanted to keep me at home, but I insisted on going to work. I needed to distract myself to forget about the upcoming events until they could begin. I snapped out of my thoughts when I felt the floor shake a little. I had experienced earthquakes several times since coming to New Domino City, so I knew what it was. However, this quake felt different. The office phone rang, so I picked it up while ignoring the quake. "Secretary Goodwin?" I answered.
"Estelle, could you bring me the documents for the meeting in an hour?"
Goodwin asked. "Yes, Director." I grabbed the documents he had requested and went to his office. I knocked softly on the door before entering. Goodwin was standing by the windows behind the desk and looked at the view of downtown New Domino, hands behind his back. "The documents you requested, Director," I spoke up as I placed them on his desk. "Thank you, Estelle," Goodwin nodded. I could hear in his voice he was thinking deeply about something. "Is something bothering you, Director?" I asked. Goodwin was silent in a few seconds before he turned around to face me. "Yes," he nodded. "Is it about the virus invasion from the other day?" "Yes and no. It's about you, Estelle." "Me?" Goodwin nodded. "You have not been acting like yourself since the virus invasion. I can tell something is bothering you, but you are very hesitant to tell me." I looked at my shoes and clenched my hands together nervously. "There is a reason why," I responded quietly. Goodwin's eyes studied me, but he remained calm. "You do not have to be afraid. Speak out your mind." "It's just a theory, but," I began slowly. "What if that virus invasion was caused by Iliaster?" "Iliaster?" Goodwin said in a surprised voice. I nodded. "Who else would want to attack us and not steal any confidential information and not cause more damage to our computers? I think it was a warning." I got interrupted by Goodwin's office phone ringing. He picked up the receiver as the holder projected a hologram of the higher-ranked security officer who was calling. "Yes?" Goodwin said.
"Director, we've just received reports that a gigantic meteorite has crashed on the outskirts of the city a couple of miles away."
"Dispatch a team to the area," Goodwin said seriously. "The Vice Director, my secretary, and I will meet them there." Goodwin, Lazar, and I sat in the limousine as a group of sector security vehicles had us surrounded to protect us while another team had gone ahead to Ground Zero. None of us said a word as we waited for the vehicle to arrive to its destination. I had a tablet computer in my hand, very similar to an iPad in my Word, as I scrolled through the data I got from sector security of valuable information, like reports from different observatories in Japan and the nearby countries if they had snapped up any meteors heading toward Earth. Any news, Miss Goodwin? Lazar asked after clearing his throat. Sector security has contacted all observatories in Japan, Korea, East China, Taiwan, Indonesia, and even Australia and Hawaii, I began. But none of them has reported any meteors that have its course set on Japan. After reviewing a few tapes, the observatories report that this particular meteor appeared out of nowhere outside of the Earth's orbit, only to crash outskirts of New Domino City. A meteor appearing out of nowhere? That's ridiculous, Lazar retorted irritably. Goodwin had been silent the whole time, but now he spoke up. We have arrived. The limousine braked among the other security vehicles. The driver got out and opened the door for us. Goodwin, Lazar, and I stepped out and got greeted by a gruesome scene. There was a huge crater in the middle of what used to be a huge flower meadow. I couldn't figure out its diameter, but it looked like it was about 1 kilometer. Where is the first team? Lazar called as he looked around. I squinted to see several black dots nearby the smoking center of the crater. I think they're down there, but something's wrong. We slid down the crater as carefully as we could with the other officers. It was hard for me because I was wearing heels. Once we made it to the bottom, we hurried to the center. I gaped in shock when I saw the first dispatch team of officers was laying on the ground. They were groaning in pain, as if they had been in a fight and got knocked out. What happened? Lazar asked as he pulled up one of the unconscious officers by the collar and shook him. Wake up! Give us a status report! Calm down, Lazar, Goodwin said. We need to call for ambulances to take care of our colleagues. Everything turned into a mess. The escorts helped their colleagues to get up from the crater, while another team followed me to check the epicenter of the crater where the meteorite had crashed. The smoke was getting thinner, but it was very hot, so we couldn't get close to it. The earth sizzled by the intense heat of the impact. We can't investigate the meteorite like this, one of the officers said. We need to either wait for it to cool down or get some fire extinguishers, I concluded. I turned my head down to the pocket of my coat when I heard my smartphone ringing. I picked it up and saw it was Mina, so I answered. Hello?
Estelle, it's Mina. I got bad news. Sector security just had a blackout, but once the power returned, we found that someone has stolen one of the prototype riding droids.
What? I exclaimed in disbelief. Someone stole the prototype droid? First the meteorite and now the riding droid. This was definitely the three pure nobles doing. If there was no stone tablet here, then they must have arrived before the first dispatch team, and when my colleagues showed up, the bad guys knocked them out and fled the scene. And then they clearly broke into sector security and stole the riding droid to set up the first stage of their act. The three pure nobles were sitting on their thrones and looked down at the grand design. They were watching the live feed of Ground Zero through a window above the circuit, amused by the sight of sector security scrambling around in the empty crater. Well, it's a good thing we made it out there in time, the smallest noble chuckled. What is most concerning is we had to change our plans due to Goodwin's existence, the biggest noble pointed out, his voice slightly muffled by the metallic mouthpiece covering his mouth and nose. We were supposed to become the new directors of sector security after his death, but an outcast had to interfere and keep him alive. The Crimson Star Priestess. The third and slim noble mumbled as the window showed a close-up of Estelle, who looked concerned after the phone call from Mina. She's not the only one responsible for this change. Because Goodwin had the fourth seal of the Crimson Dragon, he became connected to the dragon. Even to this day, he still carries a tiny piece of the Crimson Dragon's power. Yeah, when we tried to erase him from history with Infinity, it didn't work, the smallest noble nodded. Oh, whatever, we can always execute him in another way. Say, Primo, the big noble spoke up. What exactly is the purpose of the writing roid you just stole from sector security? The right corner of Primo's lips turned into a small smirk. I will try out the card our god has sent us. It will take some time before your cards arrive, Lester, Jacob, so we can at least do something productive and test things out. Don't forget the main objective of our plan, Primo, the big noble warned him. Let him play around, Jacob, the little noble laughed. It's not like we have anything else to do while we wait for our cards. Several days have passed since the meteorite mystery and the disappearance of the prototype riding roid. As I suspected, the very next day the roid got stolen. Reports about a reckless turbo duelist who caused chaos and havoc to other duelists during nighttime came pouring in. The victims got seriously injured, but when they were in stable condition and able to talk, they told sector security the mysterious turbo duelist called himself Ghost. Despite security's hard efforts to track down Ghost, they couldn't find him. Even if they got the words that Ghost was active, they always arrived late to the scene, only to be met by a wounded turbo duelist and their demolished duel runner. After 5 days of cases of Ghost in a row, Goodwin decided it was time to discuss the matter with the satellite trio. I was dressed in my casual outfit with pants instead of my work uniform when Goodwin, Mina, Trudge and I went to visit Yusei, Jack and Crow. My work hours were over, so I could spend some time at the garage. I drove ahead on my duel runner while Trudge drove the sector security limousine behind me with lights and siren on. I drove slowly through the Fountain Plaza while the pedestrians made way for me and the limousine. When I was close to Zora's clock shop, I could see there was a big crowd next to the huge windows of the garage. I had a feeling the prototype engine the young men were working on had recently exploded and lured the curious crowd. I honked at the crowd to make way, but they were already moving aside when they heard the sirens. I slowed down until I was parked in the alleyway. I turned off the runner and removed my helmet as the limousine parked next to the garage. I put away the helmet in the compartment under the seat of the duel runner and pulled out my bag before joining Goodwin and the others with Zora and the satellite trio, who were covered in black dust and soot. Security? Zora said nervously, clearly thinking we were here because of the disturbance. My apologies. We didn't intend on causing any problems with anyone from security. Trudge chuckled amusingly. What? They failed again? Everyone who was close to Yusei, Jack and Crow knew they were working on a new engine for the Grand Prix, so it was no surprise for Trudge. You may relax, Zora, Goodwin told her calmly. We are here on unrelated business. Oh, is that so? Zora responded confusedly. We need to talk to the three of you. Mina nodded at the satellite trio. Sure, but the place is a mess, Crow said sheepishly as he rubbed the back of his head, dressed in his yellow Blackbird delivery jacket. Zora chased away the crowd as the rest of us walked inside the garage. It smelled a bit of fumes, but the air ventilation was working on max to get rid of it. There was a huge pile in the middle of the garage of broken parts of the now ruined test runner and prototype engine. Still working on those engines? Trudge asked. Yusei picked up one of the components of the broken test runner and inspected it for damage. Yeah, we absolutely need a new engine to win the World Racing Grand Prix in 6 months. Entries are in 3-man groups after all, Crow added, pointing on a poster of the upcoming event. Since we're improving 3 dual runners, no amount of time will be enough for us. The winners of WRGP will become legends in the Turbo Duel world, and attaining that glory is our dream, Jack finished, dressed in his riding suit. More like a start line for you to regain the title as the King of Games, Jack, I commented. I admire your passion and determination to participate in the World Racing Grand Prix, but there will be several professional teams who have turbo-dueled longer than the 3 of you together, Goodwin said. The competition will be tough, but you will be one of the teams representing Japan, so I have high expectations of you. To think that's the reason why you've been working jobs while slaving away at building your own engines, Trudge commented. What about the sponsorship you got from Bolger & Company? Did you reject them? No, but we came to an agreement, Crow answered. You say Jack and I'll build the engine and have Bolger & Company produce and make the final touches and upgrade our dual runners with it. With the city and satellite finally united, we were given a chance to be citizens, Yusei added. But as to what we can do or how we can contribute to the city, I'll think that come into view by winning this tournament. That is why we want to do this by our own hands. That sounds like you 3, Mina giggled softly. You guys are starting to talk like a bunch of wise guys, Trudge said amusingly. With great power comes great responsibility, and with great responsibility comes great wisdom, I chimed in as I looked at my right arm, imagining my star mark glow through this black sleeve. We were chosen by the Crimson Dragon, and with everything we've been through, it's no wonder we gained lots of experience. Anyway, what did you need to talk about? Jack changed the topic back to the main reason why we sought them. Have you heard the rumors about Ghost? Trudge asked the trio. Ghost? Yusei mumbled confusedly. Yeah, I've heard about him, Crow nodded. The bastard who crops up on the highway every night challenges you to a duel and makes you crash, right? That is correct, Goodwin said. Ever since New Domino City unified with Satellite, we have not regulated turbo duels on the highway. Instead, it's gotten to the point where we have built and advocated special courses. And with that, Speedword 2 was developed from the traditional Speedword as an official card for the World Racing Grand Prix, and the dual runners are gathering from every corner of the world, which has the whole city charged up, Trudge added. There are also guys among them that are knocking out other dual runners in advance, right? Crow questioned. The problem is in how Ghost's doing it, Mina said. A regular turbo duel would never produce accidents that would hurt the opponent. Then, what you're telling us is that Ghost is using some unlawful means to make his opponents crash? Jack asked. That would be the case, Mr. Atlas. Mina nodded, trying to remain professional, but you could clearly hear the affection in her voice. Trudge froze when he heard the woman's voice and mumbled profanities in the background. Mr. Atlas, my butt. Hey, hold up a sec, Crow said irritably. So the reason you came here is because you want us to help you crack the case? Our men are working profusely to track down Ghost and have him arrested for the crimes, Goodwin said with a voice full of authority. But if it comes down to the worst, may I request your assistance in the future, Yusei, Jack, Crow? Well, Yusei began, only to get interrupted by Crow. Only when you got no other choice or something serious happens, the carrot head yelled. We're busy preparing for the Grand Prix. Yusei is developing the engines and me and Jack are working so hard we barely sleep, all to raise the funds. And you're suggesting we tread thin ice like that? You guys are security. You take care of it. Goodwin let out a soft sigh through his nose. I understand your reasons, he nodded. We shall leave now and not disturb you anymore. Estelle? I'm staying here for a while, I replied as I removed my black blazer. Very well. My adoptive father, Mina, and Trudge left the garage in silence. Crow followed them and shut the twin doors before he locked them and turned back to us. Well, let's get back to the tests. Sure, Yusei said hesitantly. Yeah, Jack nodded. But maybe you need to clean up a bit first, I pointed out. You all are covered in soot. Crow looked at himself, seeing his yellow Blackbird delivery jacket was too dirty to go out and make deliveries later. Yeah, I should change now. I'll head to the shower first, Jack proclaimed before he walked up to the kitchen/living room. Just don't use all the hot water, Jack, Crow called as he ran after the blonde signer. I've got deliveries later. I heard Jack say something back, but I could barely hear the words. They could work as a stand-up comedy duo, I commented. Yeah, Yusei chuckled softly. You're not going to clean yourself up? I asked. I'll wait until they're done. It's going to take a while anyway. I need to sort all the parts that we can still use to reconstruct the test runner and engine. I'll help you. I put my blazer and the bag on a shelf next to the stairs and pulled the elbow-length sleeves up a bit to make sure they wouldn't get dirty. Thank you, Estelle. Yusei smiled softly as he picked up another solid part. I'm sure you'll be able to build the perfect engine in time, I said, trying to encourage and cheer Yusei up. I hope so. This is one of the biggest projects I've done so far. The first one being your door runner? Yep. We sorted the parts and talked a bit, but we were mainly quiet until Jack and Crow came back, both of them looking clean and fresh from the shower. I went to bed early that night because I got a bad stomach ache during dinner. I knew it had something to do with the next turn of events, with Trudge getting seriously injured by Ghost and Mechlord Emperor Weissel. Should I have told the satellite trio about the Noodle monsters and how they could absorb synchro monsters and use them against their own masters? I rolled around in my bed, feeling restless and guilty at the same time. My brain couldn't settle down and rest. After an hour, I finally went to sleep, but a couple of hours later, I got awakened by knocks on my door. What? I mumbled tiredly as I slowly sat up against the headboard and picked up my glasses from the nightstand. The bedroom door opened before Goodwin peeked inside. He was fully dressed, as if he was ready to leave the mansion for business. Goodwin? I mumbled before I covered my mouth as I yawned. What's wrong? I just received a call from Mina. Trudge got injured during the patrol and is at the hospital, Goodwin explained. My tired eyes widened when I heard the news. Trudge got hurt? Is it Ghost's doing? I asked as I turned the bed lamp on. That is currently unconfirmed, Goodwin replied. I'm going to the hospital. Are you coming along? I'll show up later with my runner, I replied as I jumped out of the bed to grab a change of clothes. I'll be right there. I was met by a horrific sight when I arrived at the hospital. I did see how Trudge looked like in the anime, wrapped in bandages, but it was much worse in real life. I could even smell the dried blood and scored skin before he was rolled in for surgery. Crow had been on his way home after delivery service when he spotted Trudge getting loaded into the ambulance and called Yusei and Jack to come to the hospital. Goodwin and Mina sent us home after Trudge weakly warned Yusei about not using synchro monsters against ghosts. Mina also added how Trudge said he didn't want to keep relying on the satellite trio for help and used himself as bait to lure out ghosts. After seeing Trudge in his mummy condition, I felt too shaken up to drive home to the empty mansion, so I followed Yusei, Jack and Crow to the garage to process everything that has just happened. The four of us were silent for a few moments until Crow couldn't keep his feelings in anymore and punched the wall in anger. Damn it! It's my fault that Trudge got hurt. If I had just said that we would cooperate. I clenched my hands as I felt more guilt build up inside me. No, Crow, it's not your fault, I shook my head. It's me. What do you mean, Estelle? Jack wondered. I took a deep breath and prepared myself to pour the truth out. Ghost and his rampage is the prelude of the new threat coming to New Domino City. New threat? Yusei repeated confusedly. Is it the Dark Signers and Earthbound Immortals again? No, it's something much worse, I replied. It's dual monsters that can absorb synchro monsters and use them against their own masters. What? Do such cards even exist? Crow exclaimed in disbelief. Idiot, there are those parasite monsters that can be equipped to other monsters or use the opponent's monsters as equipment, Jack reminded the Blackwing duelist. It's not exactly parasite monsters, I said. It's more like futuristic robots. But if you knew about this the whole time, why didn't you warn Trudge? Crow asked furiously. I didn't know how to tell, I retorted. So many things have changed from the original anime in my world. I don't know what else we get thrown out of balance if I keep interfering. Yusei stood up from the chair by the desk and walked over to me. I feared for a second he was going to scold me for not telling the truth sooner, but he gently placed a hand on my right shoulder, causing me to look at him. No one can predict what will happen in the future, but I'm glad you've told us the truth, he said with a small smile before his expression turned serious. Since Trudge is badly hurt, that means Ghost is very skilled. He let go of my shoulder and walked back to the desk to pick up his clothes. So we should just stay here and sit quietly? Crow growled. He got his answer by Yusei throwing the black helmet to him, which he caught and looked surprised. I never said that we should stay here and sit quietly, Crow, Yusei replied as he put the gloves on. Jack zipped up his riding suit before he picked up his own helmet. We're the only ones good enough to get his revenge, he nodded. I walked over to my door runner and picked up my helmet after I made my decision. Count me in too, boys. I'm not going to stay here and worry about you guys while I'm capable of giving a ghost a piece of my mind. All right, Crow cheered in joy. Let's go! He quickly changed his Blackbird delivery jacket to his old Enforcer's vest before we climbed onto their door runners. We drove out of the garage and through the Fountain Plaza to get out on the highway. I turned on the intercom to communicate with the trio. Listen up, guys. We'll cover each an area. Jack, you take west. Crow, take east. Yusei, take south, and I'll take north.
Yes, ma'am,
Crow replied.
got it.
Jack said.
Understood.
Yusei said. And another thing about Ghost, I said. I think he's actually the riding droid that was stolen from Sector Security several days ago.
You mean Ghost is not even human?
Crow asked. I'm 99.9% sure, so try and prolong the turbo duel so I can get there and take a closer look at Ghost and confirm whether he is the riding droid or not.
I'd rather take him out before that, while I try to hold back.
Jack retorted.
Be careful if he targets you, Estelle.
Yusei said. I will, and you too, guys, I nodded. Let's move out.
Let's get revenge for Trudge.
Crow exclaimed determinedly.
Yeah!
We scouted New Domino City the entire night, but it didn't go fruitless. At the break of dawn, Ghost showed up and challenged Yusei to a turbo duel. Jack, Crow, and I managed to catch up with them in the middle of the duel. Yusei was doing his best not to use synchro monsters, but he still ended up summoning Stardust Dragon. That caused Ghost to summon Mechlord Emperor Visel. The machine monster was twice as big as Star Eater, and Stardust Dragon looked like a fly next to it. The turbo duel ended with Yusei being the winner with the help of Majestic Star Dragon, and Ghost lost with a bang. At that point, I had confirmed Ghost was the stolen riding droid, so we didn't have to worry about an actual human being getting injured. The droid crashed outside of the course, so we had to drive to a secluded forest to check it. The droid's cards and the deck were gone, but I knew it must have been Primo who came and collected them shortly before we arrived. I took several pictures to document the damage of the droid before Yusei used some tools he had stored in his door runner to secure the sparkling droid so he wouldn't get electrocuted. He checked several compartments until he found the memory chip that served as a black box containing all the information of the door runner and the riding droid. We drove back to the garage where we met up with Aki, Leo, and Luna. They had sensed our worry through the marks, so they came to check on us. Goodwin and Mina shortly arrived after I called and informed them about the encounter with Ghost. I showed them the pictures I took with my smartphone, while Mina told us Trudge was out of danger and was resting in the hospital. Luckily, he didn't sustain any serious injuries, but he needed to rest for 3 weeks, if not even more. It's definitely the riding droid, Goodwin confirmed after he looked at the pictures. Sector Security's been developing the riding droids to handle door runner violations, Mina added as I passed the smartphone to Aki and the twins. This prototype got stolen from security a couple of days ago, the same day a meteorite crashed at outskirts of the city. I'm surprised that it was Ghost. Do you know who did this? Jack asked. We found no evidence or traces back at the lab where we're constructing the droids, Goodwin replied. But one thing is certain. The riding droid was not supposed to make real damage during duels. We need to check the memory chip if it survived the damage to check what modifications the thief has done. There was no data on the memory chip. Yusei spoke up as he gave Goodwin the item. It was programmed to delete all the data when it loses a duel. Goodwin checked the unscratched memory chip before his eyes hardened at Yusei. Yusei, you are aware you can be arrested for tampering with evidence. Don't be so uptight, Goodwin, Crow chuckled. You know Yusei's skills are better than security's analysis. That may be true, Goodwin nodded. I'll let you get away with it this time. Just do not repeat it again. Understood? I won't, Goodwin. Yusei shook his head. Leo held my smartphone close to his face as he looked at the pictures in awe. Man, I wanted to see that robot myself. Leo, people got hurt because of that thing, Luna scolded her brother. Sorry. But who and why would anyone want a robot that captures synchro monsters? Crow wondered. I don't know, but it's clear that there's a new enemy, Jack said. Exactly, Yusei nodded. And if he's going to threaten our city, we'll keep fighting. And I'll tell you everything I know. I spoke up after Aki gave back my smartphone. The meteorite and ghost are connected in several ways than you can imagine. What does a meteorite have to do with a robot? Aki questioned. Because they're both related to Iliaster, I confessed. Iliaster, Goodwin mumbled with his poker face. You were once affiliated with them, weren't you, Goodwin? Jack asked. Back when the Dark Signers were roaming around? Yes, but I've severed every connection with them, Goodwin nodded. I can't believe they got another scheme up on their sleeves. The threat this time is the Mech-Lord Emperors, I continued. We met one today, and that is Mech-Lord Emperor Weisel. The meteorite that crashed outskirts was actually the Mech-Lord's stone tablet form, but people from Iliaster must have collected it before we arrived to Ground Zero. I believe they were the ones who knocked out the dispatch team. You say there are other Mech-Lord Emperors. Does this mean they've got the same effect with absorbing synchro monsters? Crow asked. Yes, and there are 3 in total, I replied as I held 3 fingers up. The other 2 will appear in due time. I don't know when, so we need to keep our eyes and ears open for any other activities by Iliaster. Ghost mentioned synchro monsters are the symbols for human evolution and they're not needed, Yusei spoke up. Do you know what he meant by that? I grabbed my left upper arm and looked aside, not sure if I should tell them now about the diabolic future. Yes, but I'm not ready to tell you that part yet. Why not? Jack questioned. It's something you need to experience yourself to fully understand it, I replied. It would seem unrealistic if I told my friends about their future. They wouldn't really believe it, even when they knew I wasn't lying. They had to witness it with their own eyes and experience the dreadful feeling of how their future could turn out, but also the strength and motivation to save the future from the Mech-Lord Emperor genocide that would turn the planet into a fruitless wasteland.